Hello and welcome to Unspun Live, the Herald's politics podcast. I'm Hannah Brown, political correspondent at the Herald, and my guest today is Monica Lennon, the women's health campaigner and former Scottish Labour MSP, who's expected to return to Holyrood following Anna Sarwar's departure. Monica is also being discussed as a possible contender to succeed him as Scottish Labour leader. She has said she's not ruling herself out and that party members have already encouraged her to stand. But Monica and I had originally arranged this conversation before the leadership vacancy emerged. We were going to talk about women's health, her own recent experience as a patient, and her campaigns on issues including menopause, endometriosis, and medical misogyny. So today I want to explore where those two stories meet: health, humanity, ambition, and political leadership. Monica, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hannah, pleasure to be here.
When we spoke earlier this week, if you don't mind me saying, Anna Sarwar had not yet announced his departure. And you were talking about, to me, recovery from surgery, spending more time with your family, recognizing that your body had basically been telling you to stop running on empty for some time. And then within days, you're being asked to consider an incredibly demanding job in Scottish politics. How are you processing all of this?
That conversation we had, Hannah, that feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
That must have been at the very beginning of the week. So yeah, first of all, I mean, I'm still today not an MSP, but it looks like that will change soon. So I'm awaiting to hear from the relevant authorities. But if that opportunity arises, then I'll accept that, because I'm looking forward to getting back to Parliament. I think, as we discussed, lots of unfinished business, including on women's health. And we were chatting because I was trying to draw attention to a petition that's been lodged in the Scottish Parliament that I have signed as a member of the public, and was keen to support and to help the campaign to ensure that women's health can improve, and it can only improve if we support NHS staff and give them the tools to do their job, but also that women are listened to when they access healthcare. So that's really what our conversation was about. And I was just reflecting on what life has been like since I left the Parliament.
And how has it been like for you? How is your own health journey at the moment?
Well, I'm doing so much better, thank you. Things had been quite challenging during the election because I knew that I was scheduled to have an operation, and that was supposed to happen 2 weeks before the election. And even agreeing to that day, I had a lot to think about, because I knew that once I had the operation, I would be kind of off my feet. And I thought, how can I run an election campaign? How can I not be around at the tail end? And I was supposed to have the operation that day, and I was in the hospital for several hours, and it got to quite late in the day. And I'd met my surgeon, I'd met the team, everyone had been so lovely. They'd gone through all the things that they talk about once you're in. There's paperwork to sign, they talk you through what the risks can be. You have to consent to various things. But I was ready, I was a bit scared, but I was mentally prepared. And then I was about 15 minutes away from being wheeled to surgery when they said, "I'm really sorry, we can't do it today." And I got really upset about that, because I'd made a lot of phone calls on the way into the hospital. I wasn't like saying my goodbyes to people, but you never know what's going to happen when you're under general anaesthetic. So yeah, that was difficult. And then when it was cancelled, and quickly, the NHS staff, my consultant in particular, like, they are just the best people. They did everything to try and get an alternative date. And they were like, "We've got your date. It's Thursday, the 7th of May. And I thought, you have got to be kidding. And I thought, I don't want to sound ungrateful here. There's so many people who've been waiting and are waiting and waiting and waiting. So when I spoke to my family and my close friends, are like, "You cannot mess about. You know why you need to have this operation. You can't delay it." So that was a bit of a
health took centre stage there.
So what it meant was I could continue to bite on the door, continue to campaign, although it was taking its toll by then. I definitely want to back a campaign to abolish those low-level letter boxes, because if you're trying to like, anyway, we'll not get into that.
Sure.
It wasn't very elegant. But so I found myself in hospital at 7 a.m. on the day of the election, just an hour or so after. Well, I think that the polls had just opened.
Sure.
So yeah, so not where I expected to be. But after the operation, it wasn't so great. A lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. I couldn't make the counts, so I missed out the whole result part of it. And at that point, I probably was still kind of out my face on strong pain medication. So it's all a bit of a blur, really.
Does it put you off being back in politics, having to juggle those two worlds at the same time? I mean, I can only imagine that must have been really, really difficult at the time.
Part of me has embraced, being out of Parliament, being able to, just close the door, not have to think about, the constituency diary or the parliamentary diary, and all the kind of public facing stuff that goes with that.
Sure.
So I've been able to take that time and learn to rest. Actually, rest isn't easy. You can't just, I'm having a rest day. It just doesn't work like that. Not for me anyway. So I think I have had to try and unlearn some behaviours. But at the same time, it's not like I've been switching off from politics. If anything, I've probably, spent more time thinking about politics. And obviously I was thinking about, well, I still want to champion important causes, care about, human rights, progressive issues, workers' rights. How can I still make that contribution? So that's where I've been. But of course, I've been out campaigning. I was on a little family break near Blackpool. We were down in Ribby Hall. My stepdaughter is a mum now, so I'm a granny. So my little grandson, thank you. So we were down in Ribby Hall and had a lovely week. And then I said to my husband, oh, we're only about 45 minutes drive from Makerfield, because the by-election hadn't happened yet. And he was like, are you kidding on? Are you seriously going to go and knock doors? So anyway, yeah, I was out knocking doors, and it felt good to be doing that and actually speaking to people. And it's just what I want to do. So going back to Parliament as a Glasgow MSP, the prospect of that is very exciting.
It's almost invigorated your reason. It's incentivized you even more, maybe, this break with your health. You've thought about it more, politics.
Well, when you get a disappointment, whether it's in politics or something else, you do have to reflect. I've had time and space to think about what's important. And I did say to you, Hannah, at the start of the week, spending more time with family and friends, that's been, I've had some really treasured moments, and I've really enjoyed that. It sounds like I've neglected my family. Maybe I have in some respects, but my daughter, who is almost 20, she's 19 right now, she's 20 next month. We were on a holiday for 2 weeks, and she said, like, my mum's actually not doing any work. Like, this is the first time in a family holiday that my mum's not been working. And that actually hit me. And I thought, what have I been doing, to myself? And what example have I been setting to her? And I think, hard work is important, and putting in the hours, we really value that, don't we, as a society? But there's something there about, we have to learn to be smarter about how we work, and we shouldn't make a virtue out of this long hours culture. Because when you look at the body politic and you look at all these MSPs and MPs who are exhausted all the time, are we really getting the best out of our governments and our decision makers? So there is something nice about, I haven't followed all of this through, but I decided that, I need to get more sleep. I need to get to bed a bit earlier. So every night my iPhone is telling me at 10 o'clock it's time to go to bed. Now I haven't quite went to bed at 10 o'clock, but just actually get off your phone, don't check your emails. Like, there's something really important about that. So, going back, I do want to carry some of that and think about, actually, it's not about just protecting my own physical and mental health, but the people around me, staff, people that I work with, and just trying to be a bit more balanced about things.
It's interesting you saying this, because this is very similar. It reminds me of what John Swinney actually said before he returned as to be the leader of the SNP. He said he took a break, he reflected, he gave this very kind of detailed imagery to Unspun one time, where he said he was standing by this loch and he had all this time to think now that he was at the back benches, and now he's refreshed and ready for leadership. Do you feel refreshed and ready for leadership?
Do you know, I do, and I remember speaking to John Swinney at various times as well, but I actually think, you know, that sort of connection with nature is so important. You know, I've been traveling around Ireland for a couple of weeks and really been out in the countryside and just really having a chance to appreciate that. And even, you know, towards the end of my election campaign, there was one day where, you know, obviously it was building up to my operation and it was such a beautiful day. And I found myself sitting, I wouldn't say where, it was somewhere local to me, but it was a beautiful sunny day. And I was just sitting on the grass, you know, with the trees around me. And I was like, this is actually so soothing and therapeutic. And I thought, why have I not done this more? As someone in Parliament who was campaigning to protect nature with an ecocide bill, it's like, why am I not allowing myself more time to think and just be still and appreciate nature? Speaking of John Swinney, one of the things that I tried to get John Swinney to do when he left government before he went back in as First Minister was to join the Scottish Parliament choir. And he was having none of it, because for a time I joined the choir, and actually that was actually a really nice experience. But yeah, obviously John had other things in store for him.
And potentially yourself. I mean, you've already said you're not ruling yourself out of leadership, so I don't want to simply repeat that question. Are you now actively considering standing? I just asked you there if you're ready and refreshed for leadership. You said, I am, I do feel like that. Is there a part of you that wants the top job with Scottish Labour?
So things are moving so quickly this week, and at this moment in time, you know, the formalities haven't happened. You know, no one's been in touch to say, right, Monica, there is now a vacancy in terms of the Glasgow region and you're the next Labour person. Do you want to do this? I mean, I think I've been telling everyone, I do want to be an MSP again, but I'm waiting for that formal bit to happen. And of course, people are asking about, not just asking me, but, you know, there is a discussion now about, you know, Anna Sarwar has resigned as Scottish Labour leader. There is a vacancy. So, you know, it would be silly for me to rule myself out of the race before it's even started. You know, it is known that I was a candidate in the previous leadership contest back in 2021, which actually happened still during lockdown. Like, all of that was conducted basically over Zoom calls. I think the only time
it's a real experience.
Yeah, I mean, the only time that Anas and I saw each other was in TV studios for live TV debates. You know, in hindsight, it's like, why did I sign up to that? You know, but seriously, it's been a really tough election result for Scottish Labour. And, you know, we were in third place going into that election. We had high hopes to be in a position to form a government. We're still in third place, but unfortunately we have lost MSPs and so many good candidates who didn't get over the line. So when I go back, the group 17 MSPs, and, you know, the Greens are on 15, so they're not too far behind. Reform have 17 MSPs. So the dynamic has changed. The Scottish Parliament, when I step back in September, will feel quite different.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to get to know a lot of new colleagues, and I'm looking forward to that. But the Scottish Labour Party now has to have a really serious conversation, and that's an internal conversation. You know, as we speak, you know, people who have a role in the governance of our party are thinking about the timetable, the process, the rules. So I don't want to jump the gun and get ahead, but I don't want to rule myself out of anything. And I say that actually as a woman in politics, is because it's so hard actually for women to be taken seriously. I mean, I've heard the so-called runners and riders be discussed, and already I've heard people talk up other candidates as they bring seriousness, they bring credibility. Actually, we all are serious, we're all credible, we all have something to offer. So to me, it's not about personality. You know, it's about our policies, about our ideas, but it's also about bringing the Labour Party together, the Labour family together, because we have to have a big tent approach to how we do our politics and how we recover Scottish Labour.
Monica Lennon, thank you very much for joining us. You have been listening to Unspun Live, the Herald's politics podcast. I'm Hannah Brown, and you can find more of our reporting and analysis at the Herald and subscribe to the podcast wherever you normally listen. Thank you for joining us.